Welcome back to another episode of Simplyrobotix, the podcast. I'm your host, Monique. I am joined for the last time, as far as this series of episodes goes, by J'Aaron, and we have a guest for this final episode, Magdiela. You are going to pronounce your full name properly for me because I do not want to butcher it. But we are going to recap episode 9, the final episode of this season 1 of Disney and Marvel's What If. But we're going to do things a little bit differently and have Magdiela kind of tell us a little bit about herself and like a little interview, and then we're going to go into the episode. So yes, for starters, I will say first off how I know Magdiela is because we have similar initiatives. You guys may or should be familiar with me doing diverse tunes. She comes from, like I said, a similar initiative called LatinX In Animation. So we're able to connect on that front. So yes, tell us about LatinX In Animation for starters.
All right, hi everyone. My name is Magdiela Hermida Duhamel. I'm really excited to be here. I met Monique through LatinX In Animation, which is a nonprofit organization that I founded with my co-founder, Brian Dimas, in 2018. That was born out of frustration, out of feeling alone in the animation industry, working at DreamWorks at the time. It started just like a little club during the studio lunch hours, and it grew into, once I left the studio in 2017, it kind of like became more of something that we can do outside, and we did. The turnout was amazing, and we now have over 3,000 members that we are working closely with to try to create panels, chats, any type of showcasing and showing a light to shows people of color and minorities, pretty much the BIPOC community and allies, and that is how we met, and we work together with Diverse Tunes, which is another organization that we love, and we have a lot of events together because, ultimately we're sort of part of the same mission to, empower people of color in the industry. So yeah, happy to be here.
Yes, and can you tell our listeners and viewers how you even got started in the animation industry?
Yeah, so I actually started in live action. I was a post-production coordinator for FX when the FX channel started over at Fox. So I was the one who was receiving the shows when they were delivering to. So we were like, the studio. And at the time, I had a chance to work on Archer, and that's kind of where I was like, wait, this is animation. I always wanted to work animation. I've always loved cartoons. I'm Mexican American, but I grew up in Highland Park, California, where I was moved from Mexico, where I didn't speak English. So I rewatched a lot of the cartoons that I grew up watching. As an only child, I was kind of alone in my room, always watching cartoons. So that sort of gave me this really love for animation and cartoons. So I always thought that I had to be an artist. And it wasn't until I worked on Archer when I was in FX in live action that I realized I could still be part of this industry without having to be an artist in the production end. So I reached out to the post supervisors and the post producers and being like, how do I do your job? What do I do? And that led me to really meeting a lot of people and interviewing for a lot of post-production coordinators and assistant positions in animation, and I then got a job at DreamWorks on their first animated series CG that was huge, was Troll Hunters, and it was a really big change for me because I'd never done animation production. I've only done the back end, which is the post deliveries and all of that, like network, studio end. So it really opened up my world about the way I saw animated content, because Troll Hunters was definitely not something for really young kids, but it was a lot about co-viewing. It was a lot about, messages that were a little more adult, but still for the kids. So that sort of is what led me into really wanting to expand my career in animation. And I work now in preschool, which I absolutely love, and it's super hard. I don't care if people say preschool is hard, but it's so fun because little kids are really smart. They're so smart and they absorb so much. And I've also had the opportunity to work in more sort of adult animated content, like What If, which is completely different. And it's such an amazing journey. And, now I, as an animation producer, I find myself having the opportunity to have worked in many shows that ultimately are very different, but they have the message in an animated content that is easy for children and adults to absorb.
Yeah, so moving or continuing with that, how did you end up at Marvel and working on What If?
I actually worked when I was working on Troll Hunters. I was on the post, right? So I was in the end, but I always worked closely with our production team and our writers team when we did a lot of revisions. And I didn't work really close with them, but I was like around that world here and there because post and the writers room are like the opposite. But Ashley Bradley was a writer on that show who years later were looking for someone who could sort of come in from scratch kind of feeling, because it was Marvel Studios had never done animated content before, at least not part of the MCU. You have like Marvel Comics, but this was completely Marvel Studios, Kevin Feige, different world. And, I feel very lucky that she thought of me years later and recommended me. My friend Amanda, who was also a Troll Hunters, sort of recommended me at the time. And I went into the interview process sort of not knowing what the project was, and which is sort of familiar to me. I feel like most of my shows and most of my career has been like a from scratch or first, even if it's like the first, preschool, which was DreamWorks, or the first, 2D series, the first 2D CG with Green Eggs and Ham. So it's been a lot of firsts for me. And I sort of went into the interview not knowing what I was going for until I kind of got the job. And then I knew it was for Marvel Studios. I always knew it was a Disney project, unannounced. But I knew there was Ashley involved, and I knew she was kind of Marvel. So I was really there, and I'm really thankful for the opportunity. And when we started, it was literally my producer, myself, the writers' room, and a laptop. So that was fun.
And what was your job title on the show? In case anyone wants to check the
Yeah,
credits and see your name.
Yeah. So it's actually funny you asked that, because I was a production supervisor and I literally trained every PA and coordinator that came in, all the way to animation, because all of our crew was live action and they've never done animation. And I was able to bring in 3 people from animation, which was, to help me train in each department. And I started in the art department, which is the title, which is art department, the supervisor or something on the credits. And to be fair, like I started in the art department and then work really close with visual development, with Ryan Meinerning. And so it was really cool to be a part of that initial. But then we kept hiring people in different departments. And as we know in production, sometimes you do many things that you're not really supposed to. So I kind of moved along in every department until we got to animation for season 1. And once we sort of got to animation, that is where I wrapped up. So check out my credit. It's as an art department supervisor. And yeah, it's like right when it flashes, that's me, which is cool. And the credits go away.
Yeah, I just really enjoyed seeing your name. It took me a couple episodes to be like, oh wait, I keep cutting it off at the credits, but I think the last couple episodes I was like, keep watching the credits. So you mentioned briefly preschool, and this is going to kind of wrap up our interview part. Is that what you're doing now? Is you're on a preschool production?
I'm not. The last production that I was working on is called The Casa Grandes, which is a 2D animated series for I would say like 6 to 13. My first preschool series was over at DreamWorks for Dragons Rescue Riders, which was small, from like 3 to I guess I'm not really sure what the preschool age is now. It's working in animation production in Latin America, which is pretty cool, which is why I'm here. I'm in Mexico right now, which is I am I'm in a hotel room right now. I'm actually working, consulting with some animation studios that are going from vendor to creative, that are working in 2D animated content in Latin America. We have some shows that are coming up in Cartoon Network and at Netflix that I can't really talk about, but they are different age. One of them are like scary adult, and then the other ones are more like 613 2D action like anime. And that is sort of where I'm at right now. And that's all I can say.
We are going to start going through the plot. So, J'Aaron, you know the deal. Magdiela, feel free to interrupt me if you want to have, like, share your 2 cents or whatever like that. So, episode 9 was What If the Watcher Broke His Oath? And this was like the first time in the episode we didn't get the Watcher monologue. It starts off immediately with Captain Carter. And actually, as the Watcher is going and plucking out people, we're seeing kind of where their episode left off, right? So he picks up Captain Carter, and actually, as he's also retrieving everybody, he says a little blurb for her. He refers to her as the soldier lost in time. He then goes to Star-Lord T'Challa. He says leader of the Ravagers and lost Prince of Wakanda. Then he goes to Gamora from the episode we haven't seen, which, according to the internet, has been moved to season 2 because of production reasons. So he says survivor of Sakaar and destroyer of Thanos. So I'm really interested in seeing what transpired for her to get that little sentence. Then he says Eric Stevens, Killmonger, Tony Stark's former protege and killer. And then we get to Thor, which is a bit chaotic because where his episode ended, Ultron had arrived with all these drones. So we see Thor fighting them in Las Vegas. And the Watcher actually can't really get a word in. So he just ends up picking up Thor. Thor is like screaming. And then they end up in Peggy Carter's like pub thing with Doctor Strange. The Watcher starts talking, saying that he searched all over the universes for one hero, but then he realizes that he actually needed like a team that consisted of people with the skill set and the experience that will ultimately triumph the big bad that they have to face. So, he just clarifies that this is not just about saving like their world or their universe. It's about saving all of the universes that everyone has been plucked from. They come up with a plan, and Thor says, like, I'm really good at drawing unwanted attention, and basically as soon as he says that, he does some things, and then Ultron is like, oh, look, there actually is life on this planet. And he comes down, and it's like, well, they thought they were going to have a good night rest and fight Ultron in the morning, but now they have to do it. J'Aaron, are you good?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So they do the whole sticky fingers thing from the T'Challa episode, right? And they're able to steal the Soul Stone, and they go back to like the universe, world, whatever, that Ultron is from. And Gamora actually made this like Infinity Stone Crusher. So they're doing a whole bunch of things. They're emulating or redoing things from like Civil War, when they were like, who's they? Bucky and Captain America are fighting or beating on Iron Man. They kind of have a little bit of that where like everybody is it's Peggy Carter and is it Black Widow that are fighting Ultron. Then they have like this like hot pocket
besties.
type of
That was a good scene. They never let me down with the action scenes. Like when they were both going at Ultron with the shield, I was like, y'all better tag team.
I did think of you with that. I thought of you often enough. And so what else was happening? They had a moment, I was saying like hot pocket. I don't know if that's the correct word, but everyone's trying to get the Soul Stone. And that was a little bit like, is it Infinity War? Or is it the Endgame where they're all trying to get like Thanos?
Infinity.
Okay, Gauntlet, and they're kind of like passing it around and all sorts of stuff like that. So they get...
No, it's Endgame.
Oh, it is Endgame when they're doing that.
Don't come after us.
Well, don't come after J'Aaron, because I already said J'Aaron's my fact checker. I'm here. So they're doing that. They get the soul stone in the crusher. They pin him down. They're like, you know, doing everything, and it just seems like kind of too good to be true, right? They're like, is it like Thor is even like, is this over? You know,
Yeah, and
and
T'Challa's just like, this does not feel over.
right. And I was looking, I was like, we're like 12 minutes into the episode, so this is definitely
It was too easy. It
not
felt too easy.
not over. And Ultron is like, you know, like that was fun, that was cute, but I'm still here because the Infinity Stones, you know, they're different in every universe or something basically. And it's like, okay, but then how are you able to use them and go to all the, you know, the other universes then if they're so unique or whatever specific? And with that comes with a thing with the show is the inconsistencies of
Yeah,
the
there's some plot hole inconsistency.
yeah, the stone logic, cuz even I guess if you were to like remove Loki and that whole show and their explanation to TVA from it, it's still, how is he able to go between universes and still, you know, have the stones? So whatever. Gamora is like, oh yeah, I made this thing in my universe, so it can't crush the stones in his universe. Blah blah blah.
I'm just like,
So
if we're gonna make rules, let's stick to the rules. Like, even if the rules don't like encompass the whole universe within the show, let's stick to the rules.
yeah,
Because it's weird that the stones have been working in every universe, but her stone crusher doesn't work in every universe.
yeah, exactly.
The physics didn't add up.
Yeah. So we have Magdiela back. You didn't, you didn't miss much. We're still going through. So now what happens is like Black Widow and Captain Carter conspire a new plan when Widow sees like that metal bow thing that they downloaded. What's his name? Zola.
Zola?
Zola. They downloaded Zola to that arrow thing. So they come up with a tag team way. The Widow's on a motorcycle. She okay. I think Magdiela's gonna be back. We're gonna continue. So yeah, so she has it. Captain Carter's like doing this like run, jump, leap thing. She catches the arrow that Black Widow lets off, and it goes right to Ultron's eye. Which I don't know, for a second I was wondering if it was gonna be more graphic than what it was, but it was still good enough, I guess.
Yeah.
You know?
I'm
I'm
happy. It's
happy.
Disney, so they're like, we're not gonna see like blood and guts everywhere.
Exactly. But if this was, you know, DC on HBO Max, it would have been different 100%. So to continue moving forward, we now see like they're in this, which was kind of giving me Space Jam 2 feels a little bit, because we see Zola and Ultron in like this digital space, like in the algorithm, and they're kind of going through a little power thing in there, and you know, Zola basically takes over Ultron's body, and he's like, oh, it's been a long time since I've had legs, and you know,
They like have like a whole meeting of the minds.
right. And you know, something I didn't touch on, which it's coming up now actually. So they have that moment, and Ultron is kind of like there's like this meeting of the minds, and then his body ends up just like falling, and it's like on the ground. And in this moment, Killmonger comes over, and he's like, and he basically does like a little bit of that, and he is able to take the stones with this vibranium, you know, connection thing, and he builds his own like vibranium soul super Infinity Stone super suit. Go ahead, J'Aaron.
So one thing we didn't call back to. So one thing I wish we would have got more of. See, this is one of those episodes that like left me wanting more. Like I wanted more. So when he pulls like the ragtag team together, we don't get that scene or that sequence that just kind of like builds up their camaraderie, I guess, or like signifies them as a team. But he also plucked them from like very different universes. But as soon as Killmonger shows up, Gamora is not feeling him at all. Like we get certain like scenes where it cuts and she like giving him a hard side eye, like whoever this is, he ain't on the same page that we're on.
Yes,
And they never like, she never vocalizes it. She's just like, no, she does. At
she
one point, she's
does.
like, "Are y'all sure y'all trust this guy?"
Exactly. That's
Everybody else is
when,
like, "Oh, he good people."
yeah, okay, so two things. When they first arrive in the pub and you see Thor has one of the drone's heads, they basically cut so that you can see Killmonger is like eyeing this tech, you know?
You can see him doing the math in his head, trying to figure out
Exactly, yes.
how this works.
And then once they're there and like, you know, Ultron comes down from the sky when Thor, you know, unintentionally attracts him, that's when Gamora is like, do y'all trust this guy? Because she's seeing the way Killmonger is like eyeing the stones in Ultron, and you know, she's like, I know we from different universes, but yeah. So
something about him.
And she was right. I wish she would have vocalized it a little bit more. Before we jump to when Ultron, before they get the pin Ultron for the Stone Crusher, they do the same camera movement, which was the scene and the moment that J'Aaron had wanted from the very beginning, was like the reveal of like the Avengers assembling type of thing. Like they did all of that. And I think it could have been even better if, like you said, J'Aaron, they had more of that, a little bit of like leading up into the team camaraderie a little bit, because the thing about the show, which we always say, is like 30 minutes kind of seems like really good for it. And because we're fans and we already know the story, it's like they could just get to it. But then sometimes you want a little bit of that, like the meaty and the fat, you know. Go ahead.
The reason that shot was so significant in the film is that's when they all solidified as a team, because they struggled through half of the movie just trying to get it together. Like they weren't communicating, they weren't on the same page, they were like fumbling the ball throughout the movie. When they did that shot, the reason that shot is so important is because that's when we signify, all right, this is a legit team. So when we get this shot in What If, it's kind of like, but we needed that, like that precursor to it. Because like Thor, he's so, I think, because I saw online, some people took it as like someone was saying like, I don't like this dumb Thor, and I don't think that it's that Thor was dumb. In his mind, he's a god, so everybody else is like ants to him. So he's just like, okay, kill Ultron. What's next?
Right.
Bada bing, bada boom. Let's move on. So he's not really paying attention. Gamora is like super layers it in on her goal. Captain Carter, she's just trying to assess the situation, but we needed something before that to kind of like, and that's what I mean by when I was saying earlier in the season, like I kind of wish that we didn't get the backlog of the movies, because if you're here, you know what it is. Let's go. You know what I mean? But I think Marvel's also trying to set the stage for people who may be new to this.
Right.
Because like I have a friend that's watching What If, and he doesn't watch any of the Marvel movies. So he's like calling me and texting me, and I'm like, oh, baby, you got to start from the very beginning. This is like, if you are a true diehard fan, this is your reward because you've done the work. I was like, you got to go back because you won't even understand what I'm about to, like, take everything you know and then flip it on its head.
Right.
Like, you picked the wrong show to, like, jump the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So I think that's what they're doing, is trying to, like, set something for people who may be new or not as caught up on the comic books or even the movies, but still, it's like next season, I hope they just go for the jugular, because like that Doctor Strange episode, like I want them to go dark like that. Let's go dark and stay dark.
Yep, Magdiela, do you want to chime in?
Yeah, no, I think I'm excited because I think from our end, from our perspective, is like we wanted to do all these things, but with time, budget, as you know, sometimes you can't. But it is exciting that you did get the feeling we wanted. Maybe it wasn't as earlier, but it is exciting to know that, like, okay, it worked and we really wanted earlier, and all these things. Like, one thing to know is, like, we're all fans, right? So everybody who's working on the show, we all seen the movie so many times. We're so aware of everything. So there's a lot of this, like, people will know, right? People will know. No, they won't know. They won't know. So if you don't know, you don't know. So it was harder because we didn't have someone in the room who's not seen these, right? Like, I was the newbie. I was a newbie, and I'd seen it. Like, I was the least fan, and I'd seen every movie. And I knew some of the planet names at the early stage. Like, so it was hard. Now that we go back, we kind of go back to, like, Oh yeah, I guess like if you don't know that, you wouldn't know that, right? So I think
Mm-hmm.
that from that perspective, it's interesting because we can now see watching it back, and we, among the crew and among the teams, we kind of comment on like this stuff. So, um, and you're right on Thor. Like that is the vibe we were always going for, and that's kind of we were like, he's not dumb. He's just like he literally
Yeah,
he's
I was
never
arguing
lost.
with one of my
He's
siblings, and they were just
no,
like, "I don't like this dumb Thor." I'm like, "He's
he's
not
cool.
dumb. He's like
He ain't never
so
got
above
no
it all that
problems. Yes.
yeah."
He
He's
always
like,
just kind of
"Okay."
does this, and then anything happens. So that's sort of the thing. Like that's why he's in Vegas partying. Like he's like a rich party boy who doesn't have
Mm-hmm.
any problems because all he can do is like call daddy. We kind of
He's
like
like a
we're
dude bro with power.
exactly. That's exactly, and we call him bro. That was just when we did the record with him. We are like, you're like a bro. You're like a rich kid. Like think like Gossip Girl. Like think like all these words for that are true. Like that was the vibe. It was just like you have all this money in the world. You have all this power in the world. Like you can throw a
Mm-hmm.
party in our Earth and just take over the whole like Vegas. Like think about that. Like So I like that. Also the Gamora. I can't tell you much, but it's such a. I'm glad that it's still going to be for season 2, and it was a really hard episode because when you have and all I can say is when you have a a world that's coming in the, I don't want to say much, but in the Eternals, which is like space,
Yeah, I
we
tell people
have
if you read the comic books, you kind of have an idea of where it could go. You're not.
yeah.
I'm not
So
certain where they'll land, but I have an idea of where it could go. I also think it's interesting that Tony had to go to space to live because he caught the L this
Every
entire season.
episode.
This is the only universe we've seen him in where he did not die.
But he did not. And if you notice, he has like a whole. We were like, how do we keep him alive there? Well, he's gonna have all this
Right.
crazy machinery for him to like be able to be there and feel like he belongs in space.
Hmm.
So I think that in this case, I can tell you that space is really important, and Gamora is awesome. So that's that. And kind of going back on the, we wish we could have that like friendship or like that like, hey, we're a team earlier. The best way we were able to answer that was between the relationship between Natasha and Peggy,
Yes.
kind of being like, hey, in our world, like it's called BFFs, like, like we are friends, like you trust 3 people, not, and I think that was our way to kind of show that their connection is multiversal, like even
Hmm.
though you go to New World, and if you notice at the end, you have it's like, hey, you're not my Natasha, but you still have the same vibe. So that was our way to try to kind of answer that, because we also felt that like, okay, but we only have what 25 minutes to compile everything. But again, it's kind of exciting just to kind of feel that it was understood overall.
Yes, and
I'm
go ahead, J'Aaron.
sorry. I'm so interested to see how season 2 is going to roll out because if you read the comics, then one, he's not the only watcher. There's like a collective of them. And two, he's notorious for intervening when he's not supposed to. So now I'm wondering if he's going to have to answer for his crime. That's going to go
Yeah.
because he already knew everything that's going to happen, but he let it play out anyway. Because like with the him knowing what Strange was going to do and him knowing that Killmonger is going to be Killmonger at the end of the day, like he still let it play out. So
Yes.
I don't know.
Yeah.
It's
I
interesting.
mean, you pay for your mistakes in any universe you're part of, right? So I
Hmm.
think that I think that's exciting to think about. I mean, the fact that the stones are different in every universe, they might act just slightly different in a different multiverse, which is why they couldn't like destroy, Gamora had the machine to destroy the rocks, but then she couldn't because because they're different. So I think that also is important to kind of keep in mind that there are so many watchers, and maybe on this another universe, maybe he does get more involved. I don't know. So
I just say thank you so much for making all of this connect because if it didn't,
She was gonna lose her mind.
I was gonna explode. Monique was like, I think this is separate. I think these are just one offs. I'm like, no. You don't understand. Marvel is notorious for the long game. This will
yeah,
connect. This will connect.
no, I mean we
And then the
had
week
to,
that everybody died, like the whole Avengers team died, she was like, I don't know. I was like, if this doesn't connect, I'm gonna lose it.
Okay, that I have to admit that when everyone dies, that was a fun episode because I think we've all like jokingly have commented of like, if you were a superhero, wouldn't it be like super easy to kill a superhero? We're like, yeah, but how would you do that? And then it was like fun to explore that and be like, yes, in this universe, it's just much easier.
What y'all think of the
Because
Hulk?
the Hulk, and like, especially because I mean, yes, everybody's like, oh, come on, you can kill Thanos with this, like the Ant-Man can just, you've seen the memes, you've seen the comments, and it's kind of funny because we're like, I mean, they're not wrong. So this was like our way of like answering that or kind of fulfilling that
Mm-hmm.
fantasy of some of the fans had of like, come on,
What
you
if he
can
went
like
rogue?
put something in and explode from within kind of thing. So we were, I think that and in general, I mean, our writers room was only two people, which is Ashley and Matt, who are like, it was so, because of that and because Marvel is just so notorious for connecting things, it was easier to keep track, and it was easier when you have two writers kind of like back and forth on the stories, and then kind of going backwards, like, okay, how do we want this to sort of end, and then kind of work backwards on how do we want the stories to blend in. And I'm glad you love episode 5. That's I mean, episode one for us was the the Doctor Strange episode. I think it ended up being episode 4, but anyway, on our end was when
Mm-hmm.
we're working in production was episode 5, and I remember like reading the script and getting like really emotional and being like, "This is gonna be amazing," and um, just the way that Marvel is, and also you learn not to share things because we're fans. Like, you don't want to spoil anything, and that one was one that I felt really like excited about because I knew that if the fans love this dark side, oh, things we could do with season 2, right? Like that was
Mm-hmm.
really exciting. So to hear the feedback about like, we want dark, it's fun because that opened up the door. When I left season, I wrapped up season 1. I had a chance to see sort of the arc for season 2, and it's exciting because there are some cool dark things that are coming.
How does it feel to to be on the other side now? Production is done, is out in the world, and people are like, taking it in. How does it feel to see people reacting to it?
It feels, honestly, it's exciting because obviously people are fans, and early on that we got a lot of hate as far as like, oh, they're making a cartoon, oh, we're making like, it's really good for an animated
Y'all better
series.
stop underestimating animation.
I know. So I was, and me, in like aside, if you know me aside of like, just Marvel, I am huge like animation. This is not just a genre. This is like a way to tell stories for anyone.
Right.
So
Animation isn't a genre.
it's not like, I don't like, when you go like, oh, animated, and then you see like, oh, it's for kids, like the co-viewing aspect, the fact that it wasn't necessarily for kids, the fact that we were writing and creating for like the fans that are adult grown ass people that are watching this was really exciting to kind of get the feedback that people really connect to the worlds, and we're like, oh wow, like this episode kind of reminds me, or oh, I always wanted this to happen, and I didn't get to see it on the big screen, but I got to see it on the animated series. Also, a lot of it was, we like, Marvel just couldn't create these 9 little movies on the time and budget that we had, so giving these stories and these characters and bringing what I think, for my personal part, that I enjoy was bringing a lot more diversity, because if you notice the features, a lot of our superheroes were like, yeah, we have Wakanda, and it's amazing that we have one whole movie, but that's kind of it, and that's not
It's a drop
what.
in the bucket.
Exactly, and it's for us was more like, how can we really bring in these characters that are sort of like under represented, or not necessarily the main characters or the Avengers, and create this new world. And I love that you love that shot where all the where you can see all that, because it's literally lifted from the movie. In fact,
It's
they are,
iconic.
it's iconic. So I think that was really important, because if you see, we have these characters that are very different. That when you're kind of rolling around, you're like, wow, you have a green character, you have a black character, you have another black character, you have a woman, like you have like 2 white dudes, and that's exciting for me, and I think that was exciting for everyone to be like, we are the ones bringing this diversity and this into it. And it was like, it's a small thing, but for us, or personally for me, that was huge. And those are the kind of things that I now get excited when people notice or when people say. I mean, I remember when the pilot came out and it was like, oh my God, Peggy, like, you know, bitch, flip a truck. And we're like, yes, she did. Yes, she did. And that was
We need more
exciting.
Captain Carter.
Yes, yes. And I think that was really, that was, to me, that's been the best I've seen. People sort of find themselves represented in these new version of the characters. You know, Thanos, like, I have a lot of friends who love Thanos. I mean, to be fair, I'm always like, is he kind of wrong about the half and half? I don't know. I feel like maybe
it's genocide.
You know, it's still called genocide.
He just needed some redirection.
Yeah, it just needs to be a little,
but it's random.
But it's random. So yeah, exactly. So to see Thanos in like a really like a bro cool like way was so cool, and I think
that Thanos was hilarious.
Dad Thanos is I don't know that there's a few lines that got cut, but I think when we recorded him, we were like, think of Thanos being like from California and like he's like a hip, like he goes surfing and stuff, and or you know, like that's what he does. And I thought it was really fun because they're fans who love Thanos, and now they like love Thanos, right? So to me, that's been the most exciting part, is seeing the fans really kind of fall in love with these characters that they have always known, and now they represent them personally even more.
Okay. Mm-hmm. I did not want to interrupt that at all. That was beautiful. But we just have a little bit more of the episode to go through.
Oh, right.
yes. Let's talk about the episode.
Right.
Because, yes.
So,
cold opening.
Killmonger takes the Infinity Stones, creates his own suit, and then, what's his name? Zola?
Captain Zola.
Zola. He takes the stones back, and they start this tug of war, and then that's when Doctor Strange steps up, and he's like, oh, I see it now. Like, we were never going to win. The goal was to get the stones away from the body, essentially.
Yes.
So the same way Doctor Strange in his world created, like, a bubble to salvage his last bit of universe, he puts these two in a bubble where they are now in, like, a power struggle for the stones, and then that's kind of it. Everybody ends up in the pub again. The Watcher's like, okay, I'm putting you back in your universe in the exact moment that I plucked you from. Peggy is like, do I have to go back? Because, like, I still want my Steve. And he's like, well, your universe needs Captain.
That was so heartbreaking. She was like, do I get my happy ending? I think I deserve it. He was like, nah, sis.
Like,
basically,
what if you went back to your original one instead?
Yeah,
that was cold.
Yeah, I felt for her, but then I really actually felt for Natasha, aka Black Widow, because she was like, I don't have a world to go back to. Like, Ultron destroyed everything, and
she said, because when they found her, or when she found them, she was like, I'm the only supposed to be the last person on this planet.
Right?
I'm like, dang.
Yeah, that was tough. We wanted to give everybody sort of a happy ending. I think that that was a great way to bring her back into that, and also like give her an opportunity to be part of, you know, season 2. And again, we were trying, and our writers in our room and everybody involved really wanted to bring a lot more women into the story and be like main characters.
Yeah, so the Watcher ends up putting her in a universe that had lost their Black Widow, and that's when we see the moment you talked about, Magdiela, where Fury is like, you're not mine, Natasha, but like you got her spirit, so that's cool. And she's back in action.
I love how Fury instantly knew.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
He would be the one to know. But
her hair was different too, right?
Yes.
We were like, the hair has to be different because he needs to know.
Yeah. And then, so I think the episode ends-ish around then, and I cut it off and then go to YouTube and see like an after credit scene, and I was like, what? An after credit scene? So
oh no, you always watch the end.
Well, you told me to just like scroll to the end.
I scrolled and I still missed it. And I was like, all the other episodes didn't have an after credit, right? But
they did not. But this is a finale.
I know. I know. And I played myself. So yeah, the after credit scene, Black Widow, Captain Carter, they're on that ship And Widow's like, you need to check this out. And it's a Hydra Stomper that has been maybe frozen or something. And Natasha's like, oh, and there's a person inside. So it kind of leaves off with that cliffhanger for season 2. And then the show's over for real now.
Yeah.
Okay. Do y'all think that's Steve in there?
I don't know. I honestly
don't know.
Or more importantly, her Steve? Or do y'all feel like
that's
he's
where I'm going? Because you have to
Winter Soldier Steve now, and he got juiced up being in that little Iron Giant.
Right.
That's a good point. I think you have to remember which planet, which verse, what universe we're in, right? Like keep that in mind always, because you can't change the current universe. Right. What happened already happened. So we already know what happened with our, with that universe Hydra Stomper. So I wonder the same. Like to me, I saw that, I knew it was coming, and I still was like, I still don't know. I still don't know what they could do with season 2, and I think they could go both ways. And I try to remind myself that this is an alternative universe. Maybe it is a different Steve,
a Winter Soldier type of attitude Steve. That could be interesting.
Yeah. I wonder if he'll remember his, like, Peggy.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, that's another thing that I like thought about right away. I was like, oh, I wonder, so, but ultimately, you got to remember you already know what happened in this universe. So you can't change what happened already.
Right. So I wanted to just acknowledge, we talked about Tony Stark dying in almost every episode, but when he's in space. And I found this YouTube video by New Rockstars, which was titled Iron Man Death Equals Absolute Point and question mark. And in that video, they were just talking about, like, does Iron Man, Tony Stark, have to die in order, well, if he dies, does that lead to, like, chaos in the world, in the universe and stuff? Like, his death always results in, like, things going very, very, very wrong. And so that we, like, need him alive, need him to go through his character arc, basically, in order to, like, preserve the world. So the video kind of went into that, and I found that to be a bit interesting. So if anybody wants to check that out.
Yeah.
We covered a lot of stuff, so while we still have a few more minutes with you, Magdiela, and then J'Aaron and I will kind of go through the rest of the other stuff. I posed 2 questions to you ladies.
Okay.
Hope that you answered it. One question was, what timeline or character or scenario would you like to see explored in What If?
I want to see more of Nebula. I love her. I want to see more of her, and I can't wait for her to get her own episode or her own series. I love her. So that's that, and yeah.
J'Aaron?
All right. I want to see or in Killmonger's universes crash.
You froze. You have to say it again.
I want to see Star-Lord, T'Challa, and Killmonger's worlds crash. Because the fact that you were sitting in the room with a cousin from another universe and y'all never acknowledged it or addressed it was driving me bonkers. This is your cousin. Like, he is your cousin, but he's not your cousin. But come on, like, we ain't gonna address the elephant in the room.
Oh, Killmonger was like, I'm not your cousin.
And he did.
But you are though.
No, he was like, not in this universe. He's like, I killed you already. You are not my cousin.
He's like, not in this universe.
I feel like that's the T'Challa he wouldn't be able to take down so easily, just because he's like been in the galaxy and all that stuff. I would like to see them go toe to toe. I don't think it would be the same as the Black Panther movie or even the episode where he took down the other T'Challa. I think this T'Challa would give him a run for his money.
Yeah, and this T'Challa referred to him as cousin. He was like, it doesn't matter what universe we're in, we're still cousins, So.
Yeah, because I think it shows his core, and I think that's the Nebula and T'Challa I love to see, to be honest. Like, I love that world so much.
And then I would also like to see, because, like, is it me or did Doctor Strange Slick become a watcher or start the training to be a watcher? Because he was just like,
he's a great student. He's a great
you
student.
ain't got nothing else to do, and you claim you want a lot of powers, so hold this.
And he has a lot of time, right?
He has a lot of time.
He got nothing but time.
Yep.
No, did y'all peep when Captain Carter saw the octopus thingy? She was like,
wait a minute. Yeah.
He was like, don't look at that.
I know she was probably like, oh no, trigger.
Yeah.
She was like, I've seen this before. She said, do you mean to tell me I did all of that and you brought it back?
That's where it went. That's where it went. So the second question was now, like, if there were to be a what if episode about your life, like you specifically, what would your episode be?
That's a hard one. But I can tell you that Ella Ravager, I'm already a what if character, which is super cool. Legally, I'm not because I had to sign paperwork to say and I'll make money on Comic Cons. But I was very lucky enough to work with with Ryan Meinerding and all of our character design team and Amelia, who designed the first female Ravager who parties in Vegas and everything, based on me, which is super cool. And I feel like I kind of already can check mark that.
Okay.
You know.
What if you were a Ravager?
Yeah, if you check out the second episode and then the episode of Las Vegas with Party Thor, Ravager Ella is there partying and she's also there drinking and having a good time
and she has pink hair.
She has pink hair. She has the dark eyes. She has the dark skin. It was really fun to do. It was a really cool surprise from the crew and I'm really thankful. So I feel like a little bit like I can kind of claim that already, but it would be really hard because I think I would want her to be in Spanish. Like I would want my world to be in Spanish because that's sort of like my roots. So maybe some type of indigenous Mayan warrior.
Dope. J'Aaron?
I don't know. Maybe it'd be me achieving world domination.
Okay, so we
calm down, Ultron.
I know, right?
But world domination for good.
Okay.
That's what that. Okay,
that's the same thing Killmonger's been saying this whole time.
No. Killmonger's motives have never been pure.
Well, he says it's for good.
He says this. Everyone says it's for good, but once you got that power, I don't know. I would want enough power to make things for me, but that's it, and then chill. Kind of I want to control this little part of the world and you guys can fight over there.
Yeah. Right. Magdiela, can you tell people, because I know you have to go, Jan and I will continue, if they want to follow you on social media, can they do so? What it is? Also, LatinX In Animation, how they can find out more.
Yeah, of course. Please check us out, latinxinanimation.org. We're a nonprofit organization, so feel free to follow us on all the Twitters and all the Instagrams and all the platforms on the internet. And you can find me under Magdiela at Magdiela Duhamel, pretty much on any platform. Follow me. I tweet a lot about animation and, mostly about working in an industry where we're trying to make more room and spaces for people of color. So if that's what you're into and that's what you're okay with seeing a lot of, feed about that, please follow me. Don't expect a lot of Marvel at the moment. If that's what you're into, that's okay too. But honestly, support by just a follow. So yeah, that's where you can find me.
Thank you. So we'll see you around, Magdiela.
Thank you guys so much. I wish I could stay longer. I really, really, really enjoyed talking to you guys. I'm so glad you guys like the show. I've followed the show. I love that you guys did a whole series on What If. And honestly, I'm excited for season 2. And I'm excited for all these new characters that are coming in the world. And there's so many cool animated content coming from Marvel Studio, guys. So excited.
I can't wait.
See ya. Bye, guys.
Bye.
So yeah, J'Aaron, I asked the people the same 2 questions, so we're just gonna read some of what people said.
Okay.
I'll share mine too because I didn't share it before. I want to make sure we got hers.
What's yours?
I don't know about. You know what? I think we're kind of gonna get this, but I actually do want to see Shuri as Black Panther. So I think that could make an interesting what if episode.
You know what's interesting? In the comics, she does end up becoming the Black Panther. She's a little bit older. She's more like 17, 18, like right before college stage or like in like beginning college stage, but it's flipped. So in the movie, she's more on the technical side and T'Challa is more on like the mystic being.
Okay.
But in the comic book, it's flipped. T'Challa's more into the tech and she's more into the like, she figures out how to marry the two, but she still embraces like the original traditions that they have.
If there's a way to do that with a little bit of a twist, maybe that's what I'd want. Yeah. So my personal what if story would be like, what if I didn't go to art school? You know, because I wouldn't have all that.
Oh, look at you!
Yeah, I wouldn't have all this student loan debt, and I wonder how and if I would still end up in the animation industry because I leveraged a lot of connections from art school. I wonder what if I went away to college because I did not, and what if I went to an HBCU because I look at some of my friends. I'd be a whole different person.
As an HBCU grad, it would have been lit.
Well, I know that much, but because I say what if I went to HBCU and went away to college because I actually don't have a lot of my friendships that I had in college. And just because a lot of people were like international students or moved to New York just for college. So after we graduated, everyone kind of dispersed and there's just like, it would just became hard in a weird way to keep those like 4 friendships that I actually formed in college. So it's like maybe in an HBCU or not in art school, I would have kept some more college friends. I don't know.
But I'm gonna change mine now.
Oh, are you? You don't want to do world domination anymore?
No, that's low hanging fruit.
Okay. What is yours?
Okay, so I'm thinking, what if I didn't go to college and I joined the military instead?
Ooh.
'Cause my whole family is like military. My papa, my uncle, my mom, like my mom, my dad, aunts, uncles, brothers, sisters, everybody's military.
Okay.
And I was the one that they were like, you going to college.
That would have been, you would have a family.
I would have a family?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
Because at your current age, after being through the military, like you would have had a family.
Oh no.
We would not be doing this show because you'd be like, you know, someone can't watch the kids right now. I'm gonna have to make dinner for everybody.
No, my kids would be right here with me, like Auntie Monique. We like the part where Dr. Strange and his cape.
So funny. Okay.
Oh, that would be interesting too. I want to see what would have happened if they actually made it to zombie Thanos.
You mean who? Because the only people that were still humans was the Wakandans.
No, I'm talking about T'Challa.
Oh, you mean like T'Challa, Peter, and yeah. Oh, a continuation of that.
Ant-Man?
Okay, yeah,
I need more of him in the jar.
Let's get into people's social media responses. Instagram user at JBS_ESL_AAMU, because I don't think there's any way to pronounce that. He said, what if Hela succeeded and ruled Asgard? 1. And for his personal one, he said, what if he didn't go to HBCU? Next, we have on Instagram user number 1, NE only for one only, says he had a couple personal ones, but his Marvel one was, what if Isaiah Bradley was recognized as the first Avenger?
Oh, wow. That would be a good one.
Yeah, pretty interesting.
That would like really have a major impact on the timeline too.
Yes, absolutely. So his personal ones, what if he went away for college? What if he was a better communicator? What if he knew how to cut people off? And what if he got his driver's license at 16? So we don't know what's going on in his life, but those were quite interesting. Next, Instagram user I am Rel, who was on an episode of the show. He was the episode about Naruto, right? That's how you pronounce it.
Naruto?
Yeah, Naruto. Boy, I always pronounce that wrong. So if anyone wants to learn more about Rel, there you can listen to him. He says, "What if Captain Marvel didn't get her powers? What would have ended up happening to her?" Instagram user Obscure Delusions. What if the X-Men were introduced into the MCU? I know you talked about how Wolverine was actually should have been a part of all of this based off of the comics, right?
Yes. Also, that would be amazing to see because, and this is one of the reasons I feel like they can't get X-Men movies right now and why it took them so long to really like get their footing with Spider-Man. It would be very interesting because you're literally introducing kids into the universe because they're all supposed to be kids. Like the oldest people there are supposed to be Wolverine, which is why they call him Old Man Logan, because they noticed at one point, I think it's Scott, somebody basically realizes that there's the only two old mutants that they know of are Magneto and Professor X and Logan. But like even Storm and Scott and Emma
Grey?
Frost, even Jean Grey. In the comics, they're teenagers. They're just like between that 17 and 18. But like Kitty Pryde, she's like 12.
Wow.
Like they're all kids, which like was why a lot of people got beef with Professor X and Magneto because they was like, y'all definitely got kids out here like dying and taking L's for y'all.
Okay. Next, Instagram user, I'm just gonna spell it MAANISUNKARA. What if Wanda died in Avengers Age of Ultron instead of Pietro? What you thinking over there?
How does that affect Endgame? Because at one point it was all eyes on Vision. Like, does that change who Vision ultimately becomes to be? Because a lot of the reason why Vision is the way he is because he knows love.
Right.
And how does he still, because you know how like in Loki they basically prove between Loki and What If that as long as Loki never comes in contact with the TVA, no matter what universe you put him in or how the situation falls out, he will always try to conquer Earth.
Yes.
Well, Vision always end up having to be like a casualty because he has the Mind Stone.
Yeah, probably. So
right, and then how does that work out?
Her personal one, or two, she had two. What if she stayed in the USA because her family moved to India when she was 7? And then she said, what if she had a sister or been an only child because she has a younger brother? Then the last user from Instagram, I'm going to say By Walden, BYEEWALDON, said, what if the Avengers didn't defeat Thanos in Endgame? 1. And 2, what if they traveled to South Korea because they had a chance to do a semester abroad and then wasn't able to actually go forward with it. So that's what everybody submitted. That's kind of the episode. J'Aaron, I don't know if you have any additional 2 cents to add, but like we've come to the end.
What were your thoughts overall of like the whole season?
I feel like
like the season as a whole.
I'm not mad at it. I'm not mad at it. I will watch the second season because it's held my attention enough. Like those first couple episodes, I was like, why did I agree to do weekly recaps of this thing? And I'm so glad
to reel you in.
Yeah, I'm so glad I didn't do this by myself too. But I really liked really wondering if things were going to connect as you knew that they would and how. And the journey of the big bad too was interesting because remember we were like, is it going to be the octopus? Like, is it going to...
Yeah, we were just like, who is it going to be?
Yeah, and we're like, Gamora has Thanos like weapons. Like, what about that? So I found myself actually talking about alternate universes a lot now. Like, just randomly like at work. I was like, yeah, maybe in the alternate universe you would be this type of person. So
Right?
I'm all ready for the Spider-Man movie. Definitely all ready for the multiverse of madness or whatever is coming. Yeah, and you know what? For their first animated content in like forever, if you will, I thought this wasn't bad and has a lot of potential. You know, except for that one episode, the lip syncing was really bad. But
There was a timing issue or what?
yeah,
I have a theory.
okay.
It's a reach, but come on the journey with me. What if, get it? What if the Doctor Strange in the new Spider-Man is the Doctor Strange from What If, because he got tired of of watching the stones essentially,
Hmm.
and was like, let me hack my way into somebody else's universe, and Spider-Man's universe is the universe he decides to play in.
I mean, I don't. I personally would hope that it doesn't have that much of a correlation to the movies, but I wouldn't mind if it had a little bit of a
Kind of want it.
correlation to the TV shows. You know? Yeah, that's how I kind of feel.
Oh, you know what would be a cool what if they did do you remember the Page Master
Yes,
and how it started in live action and then turned into an animation?
yes, I love that movie.
Like, what if they started just like, I don't know, maybe 10 minutes of live action or 5 minutes of live action, and then the Nexus event happened, and the Nexus event resulted in being in an animated universe, and the characters are fully aware that they're in an animated universe. Put me on the payroll, Marvel.
That's not. I mean, that's interesting. That is very interesting. There was something I wanted. Oh, that I wish kind of when hindsight Magdiela was still here. But what was interesting is that they caught Killmonger in that bubble, but that means he didn't return back to his universe. So what happens with that? Because they were trying to put him on trial for his crimes anyway.
Him from his universe, they could, right. I feel like he's gonna figure out that that can't hold them forever, because you also have two very ultimately stubborn people, and the amount of power that Killmonger has as the Black Panther, and then Zola has now being in
The Ultron body.
Ultron's body, and then also you have the stones. The stones are not meant to be contained. So that's only gonna. I can't see that being a long-term thing,
I can't see them revisiting that.
unless unless Strange is just sitting there rewinding time. Because did you peep that when Ultron was like, "I'm gonna blow everything up," and then Strange's
Yes.
like, "Nah," and he just like rewound the clock.
Yeah.
So I don't know. And that's the thing about What If, like, it really gets you to start thinking.
Yeah. Oh, did you have any final thoughts about the whole series as a whole? Before we
I really enjoyed the series. I think it was refreshing to kind of get some animated content. I mean, as a lover of animation, I really appreciated the show. Um, it's so time consuming and expensive to do animation, so it's really, really cool to see that they took a chance on it and how
Right.
well it's received.
Right.
I would like to see longer episodes, not necessarily an hour,
So
maybe
it's like
more like 45 minutes. 'Cause
right.
boy, when the season first started and they was running through
I
the
know.
episodes, I
Yeah.
was like, can we get just like 10 minutes more? Just like 10 minutes more.
Yeah.
I would love to see Shuri get a what if episode, like a what if episode that's like literally about her.
Right. Right. Yeah. All right. Well, J'Aaron, for the last time for now, tell the people how they could connect with you and talk about your holiday endeavor one more time.
So, guys, if you don't know, you can follow me on these internet streets at J'Aaron Merchant. I'm pretty easy to find. There's not that many J'Aarons out there in the world. At J'Aaron Merchant. And then also, Christmas is coming up, y'all. If y'all didn't know, I'm a huge, huge lover of Christmas. So me and my friends got together and we created a gift wrapping service called Black Paper Party. And we do gift bags. We do gift wrap. We have some amazing holiday ornaments for your Christmas tree. We just launched. We are now live in Target now on
You're in
Target.com.
Target?
Yes. So if you search us on
Oh,
Target.com, search Black Paper Party on Target.com, you can see the gift wrap that we have. You can also visit blackpaperparty.com and see what our new collection is going to be for this year. It's so cute. I designed all of the characters, and I helped design the wrap, and me and Madia collaborate on designing the wrap and everything. So if you guys want to check it out, let us know what you think.
we definitely
So
need to talk because I did not know about this Target. Congratulations. That's so
thank
good.
you.
So, yes,
Yeah.
you can find me at Simply Robotics on all social media platforms, simplyrobotics.com. If you want to listen to all the episodes, see some preview videos. If you want to watch the full video, you can do so via Patreon, where subscriptions
Yeah.
start at just a couple dollars, maybe like $3 or something like that, and you can unlock all those posts along with many others. After this, I have, I think, 2 episodes in the bank, and then your girl's gonna be taking a break. It's gonna be taking a break, working on some content to come
Much
back
deserved.
with stuff. Oh yeah, much deserved. And I guess I'll have
We do
like,
this week after week.
I know. I can't. No, I love you, J'Aaron. I love doing this. I cannot wait to go back to bi-weekly releases.
Well, thank you so much for having me and allowing me to like co-host this with you. It's been fun. It's been a blast.
Yeah, so good. Thank you, everybody. And until next time. See ya.